The sun was getting ready to sleep for the night. It painted the sky with colors that looked like someone had spilled orange juice and strawberry milk across the heavens. Down in the quiet little harbor, the water sparkled like thousands of tiny, golden coins dancing on the surface. Luna was not like other boats. She was special in ways that made everyone who saw her smile. Her wooden body was painted the softest cream color, just like vanilla ice cream on a summer day. Her sails were white as fresh snow and so gentle they barely made a whisper when the evening breeze touched them. Luna had lived in this peaceful harbor for many years. She knew every wave that came to visit her wooden sides. She knew every seagull that came to rest on her mast. She knew the sound that each different wind made when it sang through her ropes. Most of all, she knew that the best adventures always began when the day was ending and the world was getting ready to dream. On this particular evening, Luna was not alone. Captain Whiskers sat on her deck, looking very important in his own sleepy way. He was a tabby cat with fur that had stripes like a tiger, but much softer and fluffier. His whiskers were long and white, and they twitched whenever he was thinking about something interesting. His amber eyes, which looked like 2 pieces of golden honey, were starting to get heavy with sleepiness. Captain Whiskers wore a tiny blue captain hat that Pip had made for him from a piece of soft cloth. The hat sat perfectly between his pointed ears, and it made him look very official and important. He had been Luna's captain for 3 whole years, ever since he was a small kitten who had wandered down to the harbor looking for fish scraps and found something much better instead. Pippy was even smaller than Captain Whiskers, but he was just as important to their little crew. He was a mouse with the softest gray fur and the tiniest pink paws you could imagine. Pip wore a lighthouse keeper hat that was even smaller than Captain Whiskers' hat. It was red and white striped, and it had a little bell on top that made the sweetest tinkling sound when he moved his head. Pip had the very important job of keeping Luna's little lighthouse lamp clean and bright. The lamp sat at the front of the boat and helped them see their way when it got dark. But more than that, Pip was the best friend anyone could ask for. He always remembered to bring warm blankets when the night air got cool, and he knew exactly how to make the most delicious hot chocolate from cocoa beans and warm milk. On this peaceful evening, all 3 friends felt something special in the air. The harbor was quieter than usual. The other boats were already settling in for the night, their sails folded up like sleeping birds. The seagulls had found their roosting spots on the wooden posts that stuck up from the water. Even the fish seemed to be swimming more slowly, as if they too were getting ready for bedtime. Captain Whiskers stretched his paws and yawned, showing his little pink tongue and tiny white teeth. The yawn was so big it made his whiskers spread wide and his eyes squeeze shut for a moment. When he opened them again, he looked out at the horizon where the sky met the sea. The water out there looked different from the harbor water. It was smoother, like a giant mirror that someone had laid flat on the earth. There were no waves at all, just gentle ripples that caught the last light of the sun and held it like precious jewels. The horizon seemed to glow with its own soft light, calling to them in a way that made all 3 friends feel excited and peaceful at the same time. Pip noticed it too. He stood up on his tiny back legs and pointed with one small paw toward the distant water. His voice was squeaky but full of wonder as he spoke. "Look at how calm everything looks out there. The water is so still it looks like we could walk on it instead of sailing." Luna felt the gentle tug in her wooden heart that she always felt when an adventure was beginning. Her sails rustled softly, even though there was barely any wind. It was as if she was stretching her arms and getting ready to dance with the ocean waves. The sound her sails made was like silk curtains moving in a gentle breeze. "I feel it too," Luna whispered in her creaky wooden voice that sounded like an old rocking chair. "The horizon is calling to us tonight. Should we answer its call?" Captain Whiskers stood up and walked to the front of the boat. His paws made no sound on the wooden deck. He looked out at the peaceful water for a long moment, his whiskers twitching as he thought. The evening air smelled like salt and seaweed and something else, something magical that he could not quite name. "Yes," he said finally, his voice soft and warm like a purr. "Let us sail toward that calm place where the sky kisses the sea. Tonight feels like a night for gentle adventures and peaceful dreams." Pip scurried around the deck, checking all the ropes and making sure everything was ready for their journey. His little paws moved quickly but quietly, and the bell on his hat made soft tinkling sounds that mixed with the gentle lapping of water against Luna's sides. He lit the small lighthouse lamp, and it cast a warm, golden glow that made everything on the boat look cozy and safe. The harbor master, an old man with a long white beard who took care of all the boats in the harbor, waved to them from his little house on the dock. He had been watching boats come and go for 50 years, and he knew when a special journey was about to begin. He raised his hand in a gentle salute and called out in a voice that carried easily across the water. "Safe travels, Luna. May your journey be filled with wonder and peace." Luna's anchor chain made a soft splashing sound as it lifted from the harbor bottom. Captain Whiskers took his place at the front of the boat, looking out toward their destination with eyes that sparkled with anticipation. Pip made sure all their supplies were secure and ready for the journey ahead. As they began to move away from the harbor, the other boats seemed to whisper goodbye with soft, creaking sounds. The seagulls called out in voices that sounded like they were wishing them well. Even the fish jumped once or twice, creating gentle splashes that seemed to wave farewell. The evening breeze filled Luna's sails with just enough wind to carry them forward at the perfect speed for watching and wondering. They moved through the water like a cloud drifting across the sky, leaving barely a wake behind them. The harbor grew smaller and smaller until it looked like a tiny toy village made for dolls. Ahead of them, the horizon glowed with promise and mystery, waiting to share its secrets with three friends who believed in magic and the beauty of peaceful adventures. Luna moved through the water like a gentle dream floating across the ocean. The evening had grown darker, but not scary dark. It was the soft kind of darkness that made everything feel cozy and peaceful. The first stars were beginning to peek, out from behind the purple clouds, twinkling like tiny silver buttons sewn onto a velvet blanket. The water around Luna was so still and smooth that it looked like someone had spread out the biggest mirror in the world. Every star that appeared in the sky above was copied perfectly in the water below. It seemed as if Luna was sailing right through the middle of two night skies, with stars twinkling both above her sails and beneath her wooden bottom. Captain Whiskers sat at the very front of the boat, his fluffy tail wrapped around his paws, like a warm scarf. His amber eyes reflected the starlight, making them glow like two tiny lanterns. He watched the water ahead of them with the patient attention that only cats can have. His whiskers moved slightly in the gentle evening breeze, and every few moments he would blink slowly, which is the way cats smile. Pip had climbed up to his favorite spot near the mast, where he could see in all directions. His tiny lighthouse. Keeper had sat perfectly on his small head, and the little bell on top made soft tinkling sounds whenever the boat rocked gently from side to side. He held onto a piece of rope with his small paws and watched the magical scene around them with eyes that sparkled with wonder. The sound of water moving against Luna's wooden sides was like the gentlest music anyone had ever heard. It made a soft whooshing sound that repeated over and over again. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The rhythm was so peaceful and steady that it sounded like the ocean was singing a lullaby just for them. Each small wave that touched the boat seemed to whisper the same sleepy song. Rest now, rest now, rest now. Luna felt completely happy as she glided through the calm water. Her wooden body moved so smoothly that she barely disturbed the surface of the sea. Behind her, she left only the tiniest wake, like a thin silver ribbon trailing in the water. The wake caught the starlight and glowed softly before disappearing back into the peaceful darkness. As they sailed deeper into the quiet waters, something magical began to happen. From far below the surface, gentle shapes started moving toward them. At first, they looked like gray shadows swimming beneath the starlit water. But as they came closer, Captain Whiskers could see exactly what they were. A family of dolphins was rising from the deep water to greet them. But these were not the playful, jumping dolphins that most people think of. These dolphins moved slowly and gracefully, like underwater dancers performing a ballet that had been going on for hundreds of years. Their movements were so smooth and peaceful that they seemed to be floating rather than swimming. The mother dolphin was the first to surface near Luna's side. Her skin was smooth and gray like polished stone, and her eyes were large and kind. When she looked up at Captain Whiskers and Pip, her expression was gentle and wise. She moved through the water without making any splashes, creating only the softest ripples that spread out in perfect circles. Good evening, gentle travelers, the mother dolphin said, in a voice that sounded like wind chimes made of seashells. Her words seemed to float on the evening air, mixing with the sound of the whispering waves. We were swimming up from the dreaming depths when we saw your beautiful boat sailing through our peaceful waters. Captain Whiskers leaned carefully over the side of Luna to get a better look at their new friend. His whiskers twitched with curiosity and delight. Good evening, he replied in his soft, rumbly voice. We are sailing toward the calm horizon. The night is so peaceful that we could not resist the call of the quiet waters. Two younger dolphins appeared beside their mother. They were smaller and had the same gentle eyes, but theirs sparkled with the curiosity that young ones always have. They swam in slow, lazy circles around Luna, never making any sudden movements that might disturb the perfect peace of the evening. We are on our way to the dreaming depths, explained the mother dolphin. It is a special place far beneath the waves where the water is always warm and calm. We go there every night to rest and share the dreams that the ocean sends to us. Pips, small voice piped up from his spot near the mast. What kind of dreams does the ocean send? He asked, his tiny head tilted to one side with interest. The mother dolphin smiled, which is a beautiful thing to see on a dolphin's face. Dreams of coral gardens that glow with their own light, she said softly. Dreams of ancient whales singing, songs that have no words but carry all the wisdom of the sea. Dreams of moonbeams that dance on the water and turn into silver fish that swim through the night sky. As the dolphin family swam alongside Luna, another visitor appeared from the depths. An enormous sea turtle paddled slowly up to join them. His shell was covered with soft green sea moss that swayed gently in the current. The turtle was so old that small fish had made their homes in the moss, and tiny sea anemones bloomed like flowers across his ancient shell. This was Cornelius, the wisest creature in all the ocean. He had been swimming through these waters since before anyone could remember. His eyes were deep and knowing like two pools of quiet water that reflected all the secrets of the sea. Welcome, peaceful travelers, Cornelius said in a voice that was deep and slow like honey dripping from a spoon. I have been swimming in these waters for more than 100 years, and I have never seen an evening quite so perfectly calm and beautiful. The old turtle moved through the water with the grace that comes only from having all the time in the world. Every movement was deliberate and peaceful. He had no need to hurry anywhere, because he had learned that the most beautiful moments in life come to those who take time to notice them. The stars are especially bright tonight, Cornelius continued, looking up at the sky with ancient eyes, and the water is so still that it has become a perfect mirror for their light. Nights like this come only when the ocean itself is dreaming. Captain Whiskers purred softly, a sound that mixed beautifully with the gentle lapping of waves against Luna's hull. We feel honored to share such a magical evening with wise friends, he said. The dolphins and the old turtle swam with Luna for a while, all of them moving at the same peaceful pace toward the distant horizon. They shared gentle conversation about the beauty of the night, the softness of the stars, and the way the calm water made everything feel like part of a wonderful dream. Slowly, as the night grew deeper and more filled with stars, the sea creatures began to say their goodbyes. The dolphins wished them sweet dreams and dove gracefully back toward their dreaming depths. Cornelius gave them a wise nod and paddled slowly away, his moss-covered shell disappearing into the starlit darkness. Luna continued on her peaceful journey, carrying her two sleepy friends toward the mysterious horizon that still glowed softly in the distance. As Luna sailed deeper into the star-filled night, the water around them began to shimmer with a strange and wonderful glow. It was not the harsh brightness of electric lights, but something much softer and more magical. The glow seemed to come from beneath the water itself, as if the ocean floor was covered with thousands of gentle candles. Captain Whiskers noticed it first. His sharp cat eye saw how the water ahead of them was different from the water they had been sailing through. He stood up on his four paws and stretched his neck forward, his whiskers twitching with excitement and curiosity. Look ahead, he called softly to Pip. Do you see that beautiful light in the water? Pip scrambled up higher on the mast to get a better view. His tiny paws gripped the wooden pole tightly, and his small tail helped him balance as he peered into the distance. The little bell on his lighthouse keeper hat jingled softly as he moved his head from side to side, trying to see what was creating the mysterious glow. "It looks like someone scattered stardust across the water," Pip said in his squeaky voice, full of wonder. "But the light is coming from below, not from above." Luna felt drawn toward the glowing water like a moth is drawn to a flame, but in the gentlest way possible. Her wooden hull seemed to sing a quiet song as she moved through the increasingly bright water. The glow grew stronger and more beautiful with each passing moment, until it seemed as if they were sailing through liquid moonlight. As they got closer to the source of the mysterious light, an amazing sight appeared before them. Rising from the glowing water was a small island, but not like any island that any of them had ever seen before. This island seemed to float on top of the water like a giant lily pad, bobbing gently with the rhythm of the waves. The entire surface of the island was covered with the most beautiful moss anyone could imagine. The moss glowed with a soft green light that was warm and welcoming, like the light from fireflies on a summer evening. It looked so soft and comfortable that it seemed like the perfect place to lie down and watch the stars. At the center of the floating island stood a magnificent tree. It was a weeping willow, but ancient and wise beyond anything they had ever seen. The tree's trunk was enormous, wide enough that 10 people holding hands could not reach around it. Its bark had a warm silver glow that complemented the green light of the moss perfectly. The willow's long branches hung down like a waterfall of leaves, touching the water around the island and creating gentle ripples that caught the green glow and spread it in circles around the magical place. Even though there was no wind, the branches swayed slowly and gracefully, as if the tree was dancing to music that only it could hear. Luna's wooden hull touched the edge of the floating island, with barely a whisper of sound. The island was so gentle that it gave way slightly under Luna's weight, like a soft cushion made of earth and moss. Captain Whiskers and Pip felt the boat settle into the most comfortable position they had ever experienced. As soon as they arrived, magical things began to happen around them. Tiny points of light started dancing in the air above the island. At first they looked like sparks from a campfire, but as they came closer, Captain Whiskers could see that they were fireflies. These were not ordinary fireflies, though. These fireflies glowed with the same gentle green light as the moss, and they moved so slowly and peacefully that they seemed to be floating through thick honey instead of air. The fireflies danced in lazy circles around Luna's mast and sails, leaving trails of soft light that lingered in the air for several seconds before fading away. Their glow was so gentle and warm that it made everyone feel completely safe and peaceful. From beneath the ancient willow tree came soft rustling sounds, like someone walking through fallen leaves. But when they looked closer, they saw that the mee sounds were made by a group of the most beautiful rabbits they had ever seen. These rabbits had fur as white as fresh snow and eyes like silver coins. They moved very slowly and calmly, as if they had nowhere urgent to go and all the time in the world to get there. The rabbits hopped out from under the willow's protective branches and formed a gentle circle around the edge of the island. They sat up on their hind legs and looked at Luna and her crew with expressions of welcome and curiosity. Their white fur seemed to glow with its own soft light, adding to the magical atmosphere of the floating island. Then the most amazing thing of all happened. The ancient willow tree began to speak. Its voice was deep and warm like hot chocolate on a cold night, and it seemed to come from everywhere at once, from the trunk and the branches and even from the glowing moss beneath their feet. "Welcome, sleepy travelers," the tree said in words that felt like a gentle hug. "I am Sage, the keeper of the island of floating dreams. I have been waiting for visitors who appreciate the quiet magic of the night." Captain Whiskers felt his mouth drop open in surprise. He had heard many wonderful things in his 3 years as Luna's captain, but he had never heard a tree speak before. His whiskers twitched with amazement, and his amber eyes grew wide as he stared up at the magnificent willow. Pip was so excited that he nearly fell off his perch on the mast. He scrambled down to the deck as quickly as his tiny paws could carry him, his lighthouse keeper hat bouncing on his small head. The little bell on his hat rang with tiny silver notes that seemed to harmonize with the magical sounds of the island. "You can talk," Pip squeaked in his small voice, pointing up at Sage with one tiny paw. Sage's branches swayed gently, and if trees could smile, everyone was sure that Sage was smiling the biggest, warmest smile in the world. "I have been talking for hundreds of years," the ancient willow replied, "but I only speak to those who truly listen with their hearts as well as their ears." The white rabbits around the island nodded their heads in agreement, their silver eyes twinkling with shared wisdom. The fireflies continued their slow dance, and the moss beneath them pulsed gently with green light, as if the entire island was breathing slowly and peacefully. Sage's longest branches began to lower toward Luna's deck, moving with the grace of a dancer. At the end of each branch grew large leaves that had been shaped by time and magic into perfect cups. Steam rose from these leaf cups, carrying the most wonderful smell any of them had ever experienced. "This is dream tea," Sage explained, offering the steaming cups to Captain Whiskers and Pip. "It is made from moonflowers that bloom only in starlight, and chamomile that grows in the spaces between dreams. It will help carry you gently toward the most peaceful sleep you have ever known." The tea smelled like summer evenings and cozy blankets, and all the best dreams rolled into one perfect scent. After spending a peaceful hour with Sage and the magical creatures of the floating island, Luna and her sleepy crew felt ready to continue their gentle journey. The dream tea had made them feel wonderfully calm and happy, like floating on the softest cloud in the sky. Their hearts were full of warmth, and their minds were filled with the beautiful memories of the glowing moss and dancing fireflies. Sage's ancient branches waved goodbye as Luna slowly moved away from the floating island. The white rabbits sat, up on their hind legs, and wiggled their noses in farewell. The fireflies continued their slow dance, creating trails of green light that seemed to be waving goodbye in the most magical way possible. "Safe travels, dear friends." Sage's warm voice followed them across the water. "May your dreams be filled with starlight and gentle breezes." Captain Whiskers purred softly as he settled back into his favorite spot at the front of Luna's deck. His amber eyes were peaceful and content, and his whiskers still carried the sweet scent of the dream tea. Pip climbed back up to his perch near the mast, adjusting his tiny lighthouse keeper hat and making sure his small lamp was burning brightly as they sailed away from the island of floating dreams. The water around them gradually returned to its mirror-like surface. The stars above seemed even brighter than before, and their reflections in the calm water created a pathway of silver light that stretched ahead of them toward the mysterious horizon. Luna moved through the water with the grace of a swan, her cream-colored sails catching just enough of the gentle night breeze to carry them forward at the perfect, peaceful pace. The sound of water lapping against her wooden hull continued its soft, rhythmic song that made everyone feel drowsy and content. After sailing for what felt like a wonderful dream, they began to see something new in the distance. A warm, golden light was shining far ahead of them, but it was not the harsh brightness of electric bulbs. This light was soft and welcoming, like candlelight seen through a cozy window on a cold night. As they got closer, they could see that the light was coming from a lighthouse. But this was not an ordinary lighthouse that made loud foghorn sounds and flashed bright warning lights. This lighthouse was something truly special and magical. The lighthouse stood on a small rocky island that was covered with the most beautiful garden anyone had ever seen. Even in the darkness of night, they could see flowers blooming everywhere. These were not ordinary flowers that closed their petals when the sun went down. These were night-blooming flowers that opened their beautiful faces only when the stars came out to play. Moonflowers as large as dinner plates glowed with soft white light, their petals opening like gentle smiles welcoming the night. Evening. Primrose flowers released their sweet perfume into the cool air, creating a scent so lovely that it made everyone want to take deep, peaceful breaths. Night-blooming cereus flowers spread their delicate white petals like lace doilies, made by fairy grandmothers. But the most amazing thing about this lighthouse was the sound it made. Instead of the loud, scary foghorn that most lighthouses use to warn ships, this lighthouse hummed the sweetest, softest melodies that anyone had ever heard. The music drifted across the water like silk scarves dancing in a gentle breeze. Doi melodies were wordless lullabies that seemed to speak directly to the heart. They told stories of peaceful journeys and safe harbors, of friendly stars that watched over travelers, and of dreams that carried people to wonderful places filled with love and magic. Luna felt drawn to this musical lighthouse, like a child drawn to a music box that plays the most beautiful song. Her wooden hull seemed to sing along with the lighthouse melodies as she moved closer to the rocky island with its garden of night-blooming wonders. As they approached the lighthouse, a figure emerged from a small cottage that sat at the base of the tall, glowing tower. It was a woman with long silver hair that flowed like moonbeams in the gentle night breeze. She wore a dress the color of sea foam that seemed to shimmer and glow with its own soft light. Flowers were woven into her hair, night-blooming jasmine, and tiny white roses that glowed softly in the darkness. Her smile was as warm as candlelight, and her eyes sparkled with the kindness that comes from years of helping lost travelers find their way to safety. "Welcome, gentle travelers," the woman called across the water. Her voice was musical and sweet, carrying easily on the night air. "I am Marina, keeper of the Lullaby Lighthouse. I was just tending my dream flowers when I heard your peaceful boat approaching." Captain Whiskers stood up and stretched, his claws making tiny clicking sounds on Luna's wooden deck. He had never seen a lighthouse keeper who looked so magical and welcoming. His whiskers twitched with curiosity and delight as he looked at Marina and her beautiful garden. "Good evening, Marina," he called back in his soft, rumbly voice. "We are sailing toward the calm horizon, following the peaceful waters wherever they may lead us." Marina waded out into the shallow, crystal-clear water that surrounded her island. She carried a basket woven from dried seaweed and filled with flowers that sparkled with dewdrops that looked like tiny diamonds. The water around her feet glowed with phosphorescent plankton that lit up with each gentle step she took. "These night blossoms are very special," Marina explained as she came closer to Luna. "They only open their petals when the world is truly peaceful and calm. Tonight they are blooming more beautifully than I have seen in many years." Luna's anchor dropped into the shallow water with a soft splash that sent ripples of light spreading in perfect circles around them. The lighthouse beam began to turn slowly, but instead of harsh white light, it cast the most beautiful patterns of soft blues, greens, and purples across the water and Luna's cream-colored sails. The light patterns danced and swirled like the aurora borealis, painting everything with gentle colors that made the night feel like a fairy tale come to life. Captain Whiskers purred as the magical light played across his tabby fur, making his stripes shimmer with rainbow colors. Pip was so amazed by the beautiful light show that he could barely speak. His tiny voice came out as a whisper of wonder. "It is the most beautiful lighthouse in all the world," he said, his small paws pressed against his heart. Marina laughed, a sound like silver bells ringing in a gentle breeze. "The lighthouse knows when special visitors arrive," she said. "It always puts on its most beautiful light display for travelers who appreciate the magic of peaceful nights." They spent a quiet hour with Marina, listening to her gentle stories about all the ships she had guided safely through the night with her lullaby songs and magical lights. When it was time to continue their peaceful journey, Marina had a special gift for Luna and her sleepy crew. She reached into her basket of magical flowers and pulled out something that made Captain Whiskers gasp with wonder and Pip clap his tiny paws together with delight. It was a compass, but not like any compass they had ever seen before. It was made from a large seashell that had been polished until it shone like mother of pearl. The shell glowed with the same soft, magical light, as Marina's lighthouse and tiny patterns of stars seemed to dance across its smooth surface. "This is a starlight compass," Marina explained, her voice gentle and warm like a summer evening. "It will always point toward the most peaceful waters, no matter where your journey takes you. When you hold it in your paws, you will feel the pull of tranquil places calling to your heart." Captain Whiskers carefully took the beautiful compass in his soft paws. The moment he touched it, he felt a warm tingling sensation that spread from his paw pads all the way to the tip of his fluffy tail. The compass seemed to hum with quiet magic, and he could indeed feel it gently pulling toward the distant horizon, where the calmest waters waited. "Thank you, Marina," Captain Whiskers purred, his amber eyes shining with gratitude. "This is the most wonderful gift anyone has ever given us." Pip scrambled down from his perch to get a closer look at the magical compass. When Marina let him touch it with one tiny paw, his whiskers twitched with excitement and his small tail wiggled with joy. "It feels like holding a piece of starlight," he squeaked in amazement. Marina smiled her warm, candlelight smile and waved goodbye as Luna began to move away from the lighthouse island. Her magical light patterns continued to dance across the water, following them for a long distance like a blessing of beautiful colors painting their path. "May your journey be filled with wonder, and your dreams be sweet," Marina called after them, her musical voice carrying across the calm water. As Luna sailed away from the lullaby lighthouse, the night sky began to reveal even more of its incredible beauty. The stars seemed to multiply before their eyes, appearing one by one like shy children coming out to play. Soon the entire sky was filled with twinkling lights that stretched from one horizon to the other. Captain Whiskers had never seen so many stars in all his life. There were big, bright stars that twinkled like diamonds, and tiny, distant stars that looked like grains of silver sand scattered across black velvet. Some stars seemed to pulse with gentle light, and others remained steady and constant like faithful friends watching over them. The moon had risen full and bright, hanging in the sky like a giant pearl. Its silver light created a shimmering pathway across the calm water, stretching from Luna's bow all the way to the mysterious horizon that still called to them in the distance. Luna followed the starlight compass toward the most peaceful waters, and as she moved through the mirror-like surface, something truly magical began to happen. Tiny points of blue-green light started to appear in the water around them, glowing softly wherever Luna's wooden hull disturbed the calm surface. At first, there were just a few scattered points of light, like fallen stars that had settled into the sea. But as Luna continued forward, more and more of these magical lights began to glow. Soon they had created a trail of soft luminescence that followed behind them like a river of liquid starlight. "What is that beautiful light in the water?" Pip asked, leaning over the side of the boat to get a better look. His tiny lighthouse. Keeper Hat nearly fell off his small head in his excitement. Captain Whiskers consulted the starlight compass and felt its gentle pull guiding them forward. "I think it might be phosphorescent plankton," he said thoughtfully. "Marina told me about them during one of her stories. They are tiny sea creatures that glow when the water is disturbed, but only in the most peaceful and magical places." The glowing plankton continued to light up around Luna, creating swirling patterns of blue-green light that looked like underwater fireworks. Every gentle movement of the boat through the water stirred up more of these tiny light makers, until they were surrounded by a constellation of twinkling sea stars. Above them, the real stars seemed to respond to the magical light show in the water below. They began to twinkle more brightly, and some of them appeared to dance and shimmer, as if they were reflecting the patterns made by the phosphorescent plankton. Then something even more amazing happened. The aurora borealis began to paint the sky with curtains of soft green and purple light. The northern lights danced across the stars like silk scarves blown by a gentle wind, creating waves of color that seemed to flow from one side of the sky to the other. The aurora's beautiful colors reflected perfectly in the still water, creating the dreamlike sensation that Luna was sailing through space between two night skies. Above them danced curtains of green and purple light, and below them the phosphorescent plankton created their own galaxy of twinkling blue-green stars. Captain Whiskers stretched out on his favorite cushion and began to purr, a deep, contented sound that mixed perfectly with the gentle lapping of water against Luna's wooden hull. "I have never felt so peaceful in all my life," he murmured, his amber eyes reflecting both the starlight above and the sea light below. Pip found his cozy spot near the mast and wrapped his tiny tail around himself like a small furry scarf. "It feels like we are sailing through a dream," he whispered in wonder, watching the aurora dance across the sky. Luna felt completely at peace as she glided through the magical waters. Her cream-colored sails caught a breeze that smelled of night-blooming jasmine and sea spray, carrying them forward at exactly the right speed for watching and wondering at all the beauty around them. They talked quietly about their favorite dreams as they sailed through this magical seascape. Captain Whiskers shared dreams of sunny windowsills and warm laps in endless bowls of cream. Pip told them about dreams of lighthouses that could be seen from anywhere in the world, guiding all lost travelers home to safety. Luna spoke in her gentle, creaky voice about dreams of sailing to every peaceful harbor in the world, carrying friends who loved the magic of quiet adventures and starlit nights. Her wooden heart was full of happiness as she carried her precious crew through the most beautiful night any of them had ever experienced. The glowing wake behind them, gradually, began to fade as they moved forward, but the memory of its beauty remained in their hearts like a warm glow that would never dim. The starlight compass continued to guide them toward their destination, pulling them gently toward the calmest waters that lay somewhere beyond the magical horizon. Above them, the aurora continued its ancient dance, and around them, the phosphorescent plankton created their underwater light show. All three friends felt wrapped in the gentle embrace of the most peaceful night they had ever known, carrying them softly toward whatever magical place awaited them next. The starlight compass in Captain Whisker's paws began to glow more brightly as they sailed deeper into the magical night. Its mother-of-pearl surface shimmered with dancing patterns of silver and gold, and the gentle pulling sensation grew stronger, guiding them toward something wonderful that lay just ahead. Luna felt it too, a warm calling in her wooden heart that told her they were approaching the end of their peaceful journey. Her cream-colored sails seemed to sigh with contentment as they caught the gentlest breeze, carrying them forward through waters that grew calmer and more beautiful with each passing moment. The phosphorescent plankton around them had created such a magnificent light show that the entire sea seemed to sparkle like a vast blanket covered with tiny stars. The aurora above continued its silent dance, painting the sky in soft waves of green and purple that reflected perfectly in the mirror-like water below. As they followed the compass toward their destination, a most beautiful sight began to appear in the distance. Rising from the peaceful water was the outline of a small protected cove that seemed to glow with its own inner light. The entrance to the cove was framed by the most graceful weeping willow trees anyone had ever seen. These ancient willows were even more magnificent than sage on the floating island. Their enormous trunks stood like gentle giants at the edge of the water, and their long flowing branches hung down like curtains of green silk. The branches trailed in the calm water, creating gentle ripples that caught the starlight and the glow from the phosphorescent plankton. "Look ahead," Captain Whiskers whispered, his voice filled with wonder. "I think we have found the most perfect place in all the world." Pip stood up on his tiny hind legs to get a better view, his small paws gripping the mast for balance. His lighthouse keeper hat sat perfectly on his small head, and his whiskers twitched with excitement. "It looks like a secret harbor that was made just for us," he squeaked softly. Luna sailed between the curtains of willow branches that hung over the entrance to the cove. The branches were so long and soft that they brushed gently against her sails and mast, welcoming her with the lightest touch. It felt like being embraced by the arms of old friends who had been waiting patiently for their arrival. Inside the cove, the water was even calmer than anything they had experienced during their entire journey. It was so still and smooth that it looked like liquid glass that had been poured carefully into a bowl made of earth and trees. Not even the tiniest ripple disturbed the perfect surface. The bottom of the cove was covered with the smoothest stones that Luna had ever seen. They were polished by countless years of gentle waves, and they lay arranged in perfect patterns as if nature itself had spent centuries preparing this special place for rest and dreams. Around the edges of the cove, night-blooming water lilies had opened their pale petals on the surface of the water. The flowers glowed with the softest white light, like cups made of moonbeams floating on the dark water. They released the sweetest, most soothing fragrance that made everyone feel drowsy and peaceful. From the willow trees that surrounded the cove, fireflies began to emerge. These fireflies moved even more slowly and gently than the ones they had seen at the Island of Floating Dreams. They danced through the air like tiny lanterns carried by invisible fairies, their soft light creating a canopy of twinkling stars that hung just above the water. Luna's anchor settled into the soft sand at the bottom of the cove with barely a whisper of sound. A few gentle bubbles rose to the surface, catching the light from the fireflies and the water lilies like tiny pearls made of air and starlight. "This is it," Luna sighed in her gentle, creaky voice. "This is where we belong tonight." Captain Whiskers felt all the peaceful tiredness of their magical journey settling into his bones like the most comfortable feeling in the world. He walked slowly to his favorite spot at the front of the boat, where a soft cushion waited for him like an old friend. He turned around 3 times the way cats do when they are preparing for the perfect sleep, and then curled up in a fluffy ball with his tail wrapped around him like a warm scarf. His purr started as a gentle rumble deep in his chest, growing softer and quieter as his amber eyes began to close. The sound of his purring mixed with the tiny lapping of miniature waves against Luna's wooden hull, creating the most peaceful music anyone had ever heard. Pip found his cozy corner near Luna's mast, where he had arranged a small bed made of the softest seagrass and flower petals that had drifted down from the willow trees. He took off his tiny lighthouse keeper hat and placed it carefully beside his little pillow, making sure it would be ready for him when morning came. His small whiskers twitched once or twice as he settled into his comfortable bed, and his tiny tail curled around him like a furry blanket. His eyes, which had seen so many wonderful things during their journey, grew heavy with the sweetest drowsiness. Luna herself began to rock ever so gently in the cove's loving embrace. The water held her wooden hull like gentle hands, moving her back and forth in the smallest, most soothing motion. Her mast swayed slightly with each tiny movement, and her sails folded themselves naturally, settling like silk blankets for the night. All around them, the magical cove seemed to be preparing for sleep just as they were. The fireflies gradually dimmed their lights to the softest glow, like night lights in a child's bedroom. The water lilies began to close their petals slightly, as if they too were getting ready for dreams. The moon, which had been their faithful companion throughout their journey, smiled down on the peaceful scene with its brightest silver light. The stars seemed to gather more closely around the moon, creating a celestial family watching over the sleeping cove. In the distance, they could still hear the faintest echo of Marina's lighthouse melodies carrying across the water like a lullaby, sung by the ocean itself. The sound mixed with the gentle breathing of sleeping sea creatures in the depths below, and the soft whisper of willow branches moving in the night breeze. One by one, their eyes closed completely. Captain Whisker's purr faded to the softest rumble, then to silence as he drifted into dreams of sunny meadows and endless bowls of cream. Pip's tiny whiskers stopped twitching as he entered a dream world filled with lighthouses that could guide anyone safely home. Luna settled deeper into the welcoming embrace of the cove, her wooden heart full of contentment and peace. She dreamed of carrying her dear friends on countless more gentle adventures, always finding perfect places to rest when the day was done. The fireflies continued their watch through the night, their dimmed lights creating just enough glow to keep everything safe and beautiful. The water lilies released their sweet fragrance into the cool night air, and the willow branches swayed gently like loving guardians protecting their sleeping friends. The aurora above continued its silent dance across the star-filled sky, and the phosphorescent plankton gradually settled into peaceful rest in the depths below. All the magical creatures they had met during their journey were sleeping peacefully in their own special places, dreaming of the wonderful friends they had made. And there, in their perfect harbor of dreams, Luna and Captain Whiskers and Pip slept the most peaceful sleep anyone could imagine, surrounded by beauty and magic and love, rocking gently on the calm water until morning would paint the horizon with new colors and new possibilities for wonder.